The exact super simple process I use to take a website from 1,000 page views a month to 50,000 page views a month in just 30 pages of content. Most businesses are still doing SEO like it's 2010. They're picking high volume keywords, writing 3,000 word guides on them, and thinking that's enough to rank top of Google. For example, you could be a fintech company that one week is talking about cryptocurrency and the next week is starting to talk about freelancers. Sure, both are related to your brand, but they don't really scratch the surface or go anywhere deep enough to build yourself as an authoritative entity within Google's knowledge graph. If you want to be taken seriously by Google and your audience, you need to focus on creating topical authority. You need to cover every aspect that your audience or potential customers might want to know on a subject and link it all together to create a lovely web of content. One page ain't enough anymore. Not enough brands are using this method for their marketing, and it shows because I read a survey the other day that said 80% of customers don't believe brands have enough information on their website to fulfill their buying process. And you won't believe it once you achieve topical authority status within Google, because you can start publishing content that ranks on page 1 in a matter of hours rather than weeks or months. That is serious power. It's SEO on easy mode. So how can anyone, no matter how big or small your website, build topical authority? Let's go through a content plan step by step. So this is an example of a website where I've built incredible topical authority. Did it all by myself, from creating the plan and writing and publishing the content. As you can see, it's getting well over 1,000 searches a day, sometimes over 1,500 searches a day. And you can see down in the data here, we've got page views, and it's over 50,000 over the course of a month. And it's just using around 30 pages of core content to do this. So how can you get results like this? We need to go deep, not wide. Rather than writing a couple of pages on a subject, we need to cover it from every different angle. Now I know what you're thinking, there just aren't that many things to write about some topics. Well, I guarantee if you go about the research in the way I'm about to show you, you're going to find ample, unlimited topics to write about. And the beauty of it is, while your competitors are scratching the surface, you're going to be picking up search traffic that they won't have even spotted or even known about, because you're going to become the in-depth authority in your niche. So I want to start with an example, and I'm going to pick the travel industry, and I'm going to say we're going to build a topical authority plan for a winter travel company, specifically skiing, a travel company that offers ski holidays to the French or European Alps, basically. So most companies, when they're building out a content plan, in this scenario, they would go and they'd write the complete guide to every resort. They'd go and write 20 or 30 complete guides to all the resorts that their company catered to. And then they might write a best ski resorts in the Alps to tie it all together, think they've done topical authority, and then wonder why they don't really get any traffic and why they can't beat anyone in search. Well, when I'm running this sort of strategy, I'm going way deep. I'm picking each resort, I'm picking resort by resort, and I'm going more in depth than any of my competitors in these travel locations. For this company, let's say we're targeting the ski resort of Meribel, and we're going to build out our authority around this ski resort. Obviously, we're going to have maybe our main travel page about like book ski holidays in Meribel. But aside from that, we need to start building out our supporting content and building our topical map. Now, at the core of every good SEO content map is a cornerstone or a pillar piece of content. This is your main guide that sort of takes the subject as a whole and covers every different aspect and touches on every different aspect. So someone reading about Meribel, for example, they can get a full overview of the ski resort in 5 minutes of reading, basically. They can have a good understanding of what's going on and decide whether they want to continue researching further. So generally, we're going to start with our complete guide. Obviously, you can come up with your own sort of more catchy titles, but roughly speaking, that's what we're going to be talking about. This might be a 3,000 or a 5,000 word guide to Meribel, and it's going to cover everything that you can sort of think of around the subject, whether that's travel, how to get there, skiing there, food options, activity, weather, maybe things like that. So you can kind of we've all read these big in-depth guides that sort of cover every aspect of us, that touch on every aspect of a subject. Now from here we can really start going in depth, and the great thing about creating a lot of topical authority content is you don't always need a lot of expensive keyword research tools. You can use your brain and Google search to get a lot of the ideas that way, I like doing it that way because I don't want to get hung up on data and search volumes a lot of the time too much, because I'm actually not concerned with that. I know that if I build this out, I'm going to get a lot of traffic. Sure, I can go back and fill in some data or use certain keyword research tools to amplify what I'm doing, but it's not always my starting point, because quite honestly, if you're an expert on a subject already, which a lot of businesses are, you already know the sort of topics that people might have and the questions your customers might have. So from our complete guide, we can then start building out our subtopics. And instead of just going and writing a lot of random supporting content, we can go and create niches within niches, if you will. So we can actually link those directly to our main guide. So for example, in our complete guide there, we've got travel. Well, there's a lot of information to learn about traveling, how to get to and from, and all the different considerations to get to Maribel. If you think about when you go on holiday, there's an awful lot you have to think about, from what you're packing to how you get to the airports, to how you get from the airport to your final location, how you get around the town. All of this is critical information that we need to include. There's the skiing element, the main activity that we're doing there. There's a lot to that too. You think of just the equipment, the lessons, then you've got different places to ski for different levels of skier and that sort of thing. Whole lot of content to cover there. You could go into the food options, lots of different things to explore in terms of food, and let's put beverages in there as well, because I'm sure they're going to be sort of interlinked, food and drink and that sort of stuff. Now, actually, I would go through here, but to save time while we're doing this, I would go through building out my main guide and then building my subcategories off that. So travel, skiing, food, activities. So it could end up being 4 or 5 different sort of subtopics that I'm going to look at. Next, then, we're going to probably go and even write decent articles on traveling to and from Maribel, skiing in Maribel, and, food and drink in Maribel. We can go and again write pretty decent guides on this, which are sort of pillar content within their own subcategories, and you can start to see how we're building out a really big web of content. Now, to start building out one of these subcategories with supporting content, so I might start with just my base keyword, my seed keyword, and start looking around what sort of searches people are putting in here. As you can see, it's quite random. Most people would have probably started their keyword research by going and getting all these and clustering them all up and getting in kind of a bit of a random mess with the type of keywords they're going after, which is why I don't always start in that way. So actually, I'm probably going to include some keywords in here based around travel. So you can start sort of including those keywords in your filters, in your keyword research. And again, look, a lot of subjects, your volumes, you're probably going to get here 30, 30, 30. And actually, if we start looking at the keyword difficulty, you can see that these are actually really easy terms. Now, the beauty of them is, although these are low volume, I know this is a seasonal niche for one, and two, there's probably a lot of these in here that once you gather them all up, you're going to start to see those come into the hundreds, if not thousands of searches per month. For example, how to get to Maribel is only 30 searches a month here. But if we scroll down, we've got getting to Maribel, how to get to Maribel from wherever, how to get to Maribel, France. So actually, we can already see very quickly how to get to Maribel Ski Resort. There's lots of different ways people are searching for these. So actually, I know in peak season of winter, these are probably going to drive a lot more searches. So now I can start collecting up these keywords. So if I was using SEMrush to do this, I'd start creating my keyword list in SEMrush. But I can already see, if I was validating this for a client, for example, I'd probably go and cluster these all up nicely and get them the data so that they can go and make really direct data-driven decisions for their business or validate the ideas. For me, I can see very quickly what's in there, and I know I'm trying to create topical authority, not just run on what's the highest volume keyword. So I can already start seeing where I need to build out these topics, and you can see there's any number of things that were in there. That we might just start with travel was how to get to Maribel as our main sort of overarching guide in there, and then we'll go with nearest airports. What else was there? All their best airports, nearest airports. We've got in there, that would be the same article, closest airports. So we can see all this. How to get from Maribel to Courchevel. That could be a nice one. We've got where is Maribel. That's a nice one as well. We've also got things like nearest train station to Maribel. There's so much that's being unlocked here already that most people would just ignore. I've got how to get from London to Maribel. That's a really useful piece of information. Do you fly? Do you get the train can you drive? So you can already see that I've got already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of content, and a lot of it focused on travel. And there's probably several more. I know there's probably an article we can do on Maribel Altiport itself. So you can see, and a lot of the beauty of these is some of them will only be a few hundred words long, maybe 500 words long. One, because there's not much search competition, and they don't need to be all be 3,000 word articles. They need to be as long as they need to be to serve the customer, basically. So we can start to see we've built our nice travel sector here. Next, we would go and do the same for skiing. And the other place to go and find keywords, and again, this is great because you're not going to get hooked up on data. You're not going to get sort of misled by data or too hung up on search volumes and things like that. Would be just in Google search itself. We can start to see people also ask question is absolute gold. Number one, because people are asking these questions. Number two, answering these questions directly in a blog post or even in other content is going to be huge for building out yourself as an authoritative entity with Google, particularly if you can answer the question better than competitors. So what I would do is I would go and collect all these up for my relevant categories as well. So we've got our main skiing in Maribel guide. And then I'm probably going to go and put in supporting articles for it from people also ask. Is it good for beginner skiers? Great question. And probably needs a whole article itself because there's so much we can talk about in terms of tips and tricks and best areas for beginner skiers. We got is Maribel Snowshore. Another one we can talk about the snow in Maribel, the season dates, the snowmaking facilities, all that sort of stuff. How long does it take to ski from Maribel to Courchevel? Another good one. And we can map it out for our customers. I know that would rank really well. And to be honest, as well, because we're not so focused on data and we're focused on building topical authority, just use your brain to think up these things. So we're talking about best ski hire in Maribel, best ski schools in Maribel, best ski runs in Maribel. It's too easy to come up with this sort of stuff that most travel companies wouldn't bother to go this deep on a particular resort. That's a problem for them. Although you're putting more work into your content, the rewards are going to be 10x to them struggling to rank and get traffic to you owning whole entire resorts from your knowledge. And then again, you can go through and quite easily, you could use keyword research tools. You could use people also ask. You could use a tool called also asked as well. This is going to be great as well because this is going to actually probably build out a topical map for you halfway done as well, almost automatically. And this is free. You can use 3 free searches a day here as well. And if you're building a really tight sort of topic area, you probably won't need more than 3 searches to get a lot of information. And here you go. Look, you've got you've got just so much in-depth information here. Where to eat dinner in Maribel. Can you drink tap water? Is Maribel good for beginners? You've got to filter these into the right places. Can you night ski in Maribel? How do I get to the Folly Douche in Maribel? That's a bar. Really easy thing to go and write an article on that maybe this isn't coming out in keyword research tools, but you'd be damn sure that people are going to be asking these sort of questions. So you can see within a matter of minutes of me filling this in, and I've only got 4 of my subcategories here. There's probably one or two more that I need to go and do, and then starting to add as much supporting content as I can find. That I'm very quickly, and I appreciate this is a bit of a messy layout, but you can pretty quickly appreciate how to build this out. You've got your central core page or cornerstone content for your area, your website. Then you've got the different subcategories within that, and they all have supporting content in them, which you can go and do this how you want. You can find them through SEMrush. You can use Google search. You can use also ask and just use your brain. Now, I'm pretty sure if I went and did competitor research against this, which is obviously the final step as well, seeing what content gaps competitors have got so I can take advantage of them and what I'm missing compared to what competitors have, that this would be more in depth than most people would ever dream of going about. They might have like one travel company might have a bit of article on an après ski and some stuff on the best ski runs and very surface level stuff, and not actually the really nitty gritty information that a customer would want on this. And the next step, which you can sort of see in here, is making sure all these content pieces are interlinked. So from your complete guide, you can link out and link into your main topic areas. And then from in your subcategories, you can nicely interlink all of these. So you can get the London to Maribel and the nearest airports and the nearest train stations, how to get from Maribel. This all interlinks really nicely to create these little web clusters of content, internal links. That's going to help when Google crawls your website. it's going to help it understand the relationship and the context between all these different subjects you're talking about, and helping it crawl through it and understand all the authority and all the information that you're delivering on a subject. The final point I like to make on this is we haven't talked about link building yet. Now, you don't necessarily need to do link building if you're really good at doing this topical mapping, but in some niches you will need to do it for some pages. But what I've noticed when I do this sort of stuff is you obviously get industry relevant links, particularly to some of the stuff, say like skiing in Marybelle. Once that starts ranking those pieces of content, I'm probably going to get links from companies that, ski schools and ski rental and travel companies talking about skiing in Marybelle, right? But what I've noticed is when you have these sort of branch categories like this travel niche, actually I've started picking up links from places I probably wouldn't expect to on these sorts of contents. For example, on a travel subcategory I have on a site, I've started getting links from airport companies and airlines like Aer Lingus and aviation blogs and things like that. And although they're not directly related to my core topic, contextually they are very relatable when they're talking about Marybelle Altiport, for example, and it's talking about the highest altiports in Europe or something like that. Contextually, it's very related to my subject, and you're getting these really high value authority or industry relevant links that can build you this completely unique link profile that no one else would have. And you'll start to see very quickly, if you execute a strategy like this, don't get too hung up on the keyword volume data. Just make sure you're actually covering in depth better than your competitors, better than anyone else can dream this content. You're going to start to see these magical effects of being able to publish content and rank within hours